I pay money, them a thief. And them a sell out the beach. Can't for me again. You can't for me again. You hold me down for a very long time. Can't buy sugar, we can't buy lime. Can't buy scandal, we can't buy time. You can't for me again. Can't for me again. You can't for me again. You hold me down for a very long time. Can't buy sugar, we can't buy lime. You touch a blind and I start to cry. You can't for me again. Promise to pick up all the charities and all of the givers. Some of like say they're powerful, me no make a bigger. The urgent the promises done and them not deliver. Come talk to you, tell the friend, it's in our river. Them a bull money and they lie them. Corruption smell and they pocket them. When police don't have market like Satan, not a hell go mash up people start and thief when them sell it on. On the chili market man, on them a treat the cat man, on the chili peanut man, on them a treat the dirt man, on them a treat the son man, on them a treat policeman, on them.
Boom! I mean, I say a couple to the flex they represent for Wayne Global TV. So I say, you know the code in the Wayne Global TV is what fully blessed on 90 days. So I say, yeah man, to the fullest. Yeah man, make sure them log in to Wayne Global TV. So I say, check it out. So I say, one cup of flex. So I say, Wayne Global. When you watch you know, feel my plan up and I try to put them on pan we head. But man, I live too long, them want Wayne Global fitted. To him juggle so smooth that them want him life for dread. I throw the bank I like the break, but we ain't all about the bread. We open up in the ears and no listen when we said, cause we lyrics them so smooth like the linen on the bed. Them one with a fall, we live in pan the edge, I must say true, make this them. We in Global TV, we are 90, and 90. Who Jaja bless, say no man can curse. Give it the Range Rover, uno drive years. Boom! We in Global TV to the fullest one cup of excellence. See me?
Good evening, and welcome to the People's Point of View. Thank you all for joining us this evening. Please don't ask me when Nigel and Nesta them their talks today, because I can't repeat lie. I can only repeat what I understand. So don't ask me what Nigel and Nesta and all of them others was talking about today. Good evening to everyone. Good evening to those on the X, on Twitch, on YouTube, and on Facebook. Good evening and welcome. Thank you all for joining us. Good evening to everyone on the live. Good evening to everyone in the chat. Good evening to all my moderators. Good evening to all my family members. Good evening. Good evening and welcome. Good evening, Sunshine. Good evening, Amazing Grace. Michelle Lewis Wilson. Good evening. Good evening, Prof. Gorgeous Lady Rosemary Stammels. Good evening. Good evening, Beat and Teach. How are you? Good evening. Good evening. Good evening to Natalia Freeman, Pamela McNeil, good evening and welcome. Jamaican Foodie, good evening. Anthony R, good evening and welcome. Audrey Robson, good evening. Millie McBean, good evening. Shauna Smith, good evening. JP, good evening. Good evening all and welcome. Thank you all for joining us. Good evening to Monica Wills, Valerie Dennis. Good evening and welcome. Thank you all for joining us. Ubuntu. Good evening. Head Teacher K, good evening and welcome. How are you? Sharon Powell, good evening and welcome. Thank you all for joining us. Alison Hamilton, good evening. Good evening all and welcome. Thank you all for joining us this evening. Just a reminder to Nigel Clark and the Prime Minister. 10 days to go. Not 10 days, less than 10 days to go. Because yesterday they said 10 days. So about 9 days to go, you lot. I haven't seen Patricia Matthews yet. Where are you, Patricia Matthews? Debbie Jervis. Where are you? Cousin Jeremy, Sim. Good evening, all. Good evening. I'm just reminding the Prime Minister and the Minister of Finance. You are on a countdown. You are on a countdown. And the faster you buckle under the pressure, Prime Minister and Minister of Finance, the faster you buckle under the pressure, it might be better for you. What you wouldn't want, Prime Minister, going forward for this year and into next year, is the civil service been resting, protesting, go slow? Because what? A Prime Minister and Minister of Finance who gave themselves a 300% pay rise is failing to even meet the need by way of a livable wage for public sector workers, those who allow government to operate. Without your public sector workers, government will be all but a talking shop, as what you saw today in the Standing Committee on Finance. Mr. One Green article where even Warmington and Vaz having a go at each other. But without your civil service, the country can't operate. Brittany Line, good evening and welcome. These are these people that the government is refusing to negotiate and resolve an outstanding pay dispute. Without these people, government cannot function. The society cannot function. The teachers decide to go out on you. Your nurses, your junior doctors, your police, your National Housing Trust workers, your NWC workers, your National Work Agency workers. Did I say teachers? All of these people that you're refusing to negotiate with, all of these people that you're refusing to give a salary in order for them to live on, a salary so they don't have to get in debt a week after receiving their salary. Prime Minister, I'm sure the civil service is not asking for a 150, 200, or 300 pay rise. What they're more asking for is a livable wage. So just a reminder, Prime Minister, you and the Minister of Finance, you're both on a countdown from the civil service. Pauline Dixon, good evening and welcome. You are both on a countdown. So please be aware of that. And I don't see anybody taking this serious enough that the likelihood, Jay, good evening and welcome. The likelihood of Fitzdaly becoming your commissioner of police on or after the 18th of March is a real scenario. The issue is Fitzbailey credibility intact enough to take such a powerful operational role on, given how we've seen Fitzbailey. Elaine Turner, good evening. Given how we've seen Fitzbailey operated, Angela, 48349. Lilith Foster, good evening and welcome. Given how we see Fitzbailey operate in investigating crime, is Fitzbailey really the man to take on such an operational task? But I want to go to something. Hold on. Never mind, Nesta. All you need to do is just shake out him pocket. Today, they say, is Peace Day. Let me find this thing. Today, they say, is Peace Day. The very word rubbed me the wrong way. And everything else. Peace Day. Peace Day, that's what they said. Give me a second, please. Right. Why is this thing playing up? Oh, stop, please. I need to. Oh my God. Sorry, people. Yeah. Oh. Okay, hopefully. Right. That whole Peace Day thing wind me up. That whole Peace Day thing winds me up because there's an article in the Gleaner. Just bear with me, please. I know I'm slow and rickety. The one I read was in the Gleaner, but let me see. I can read the one from the Jamaica Observer. But these people never seems to speak the truth, really. Let me just find this article for you and quickly share my screen. Bear me a sec. Bear me a second. I will pull this up for you. National Peace Day. That's you. Right. National Peace Day. Peace Day is being celebrated on Tuesday 5th under the theme, The Virtue of Peace. The Violence Prevention Alliance, in collaboration with its partners, will have a series of activities in celebrating Peace Day. Come to them advertisement. Hold on. The Violence Prevention Alliance will collaborate with the Sandals Foundation to celebrate Peace Day at the Charlie Hill Primary School in St. Anne's. Dr. Dina Ashley, Executive Director at the VPA, said he is happy for partnership to instill good values in students. We look forward to have an engage in discussion with the students and the virtue of peace and how these values can positively impact their life so they may grow up to be good citizens, knowing how to navigate and resolve conflict, she says. The activity will include students being reminded of the significance of peace in school. The discussion will center around a virtue chart poster, which will serve as a visual aid to reinforce virtue related to peace, promoting discussion on how students could embrace these virtues in their daily interaction. Following the discussion, students will be engaged in crafting their own peace message, inspired by the virtuous discussion. Armed with the blue and white sticky note and the markers, they will be encouraged to pen power message such as be kind, unity wins, spread love, act with respect, and peace rock, encapsulating their commitment to fostering peaceful environment. In the subsequent activity, they will hang peace messages. Students will adorn strings across the room with their heartfelt message, creating a vibrant display of collective commitment to peace. This exercise not only allows students to showcase their creativity, but also encourages them to reflect on the significance of their message in promoting harmony within the school community, Dr. Ashley says. Meanwhile, peace and love, peace and love in society, in collaborating with the Jamaica Constabulary Force, will stage a Peace Day concert on Thursday, the 7th of March at the Ronnie Williams Entertainment Center in Kingston at 10 a.m. Students will have the opportunity to see performance by their peers and learn about peace building skills from peace advocates. No, I don't realize why it's winding me up yet, but I'm going to continue and finish it. I am going to finish it. None of you realize why it's winding me up, but I'm going to finish. Dr. Ashley emphasized that Peace Day offers the opportunity for everyone to collaborate, to celebrate rather, peace through reflection on virtues such as kindness, respect, and unity. Schools are encouraged to engage students in creating peace messages which not only decorate classrooms but also foster a culture of peace. This activity is crucial as it promotes peace awareness in educational setting and engage students to incorporate these virtues into their daily lives by reflecting the broader society importance of peace and cooperation, she said. In all my reading, there's a word that is missing. There is a word that is missing, which that is what article. I hope you can hear me because my thing froze just now. Can you hear me? My system froze on my side just now. I hope you can hear me. I hope you can hear me. Nowhere in that article, Brenda, good evening and welcome. Nowhere in that article, thank you, Debbie. Sharon Peart, good evening and welcome. Nowhere in that article, the word justice was mentioned. They speak about peace, love, unity, and all the placidness that they can speak about Britain and Lion. Good evening. They speak about all those things, but never use the word justice. Peace and love without justice means absolutely nothing. It is rather the other way around. Justice, peace and love is a natural ingredient of justice. When justice is done, when justice is served, peace and love that you're all promoting, leaving out the word justice. Peace and love is a product that comes out of justice. But this government and all its agencies rather pushing the narrative of peace in their lack of crime fighting skills and initiative and policies, rather than dealing with the issue of crime and injustice. They want to take you down to a narrative of peace and love. Peace and love is an outcome of justice. So you all have it the very wrong way around. But the SSL saga went back to court. Was in court. It's still in court, really. But the FSC is all right. Two of the SSL directors submitted their resignation on the 12th of January last year. They signed you know what? Let me read the article for you so you understand it better. But before going into the article, with regards to Jean Panton, Jean Panton has admitted, like and share the live, please. Jean Panton has admitted to certain offenses at SSL. The issue I'm having with the whole Jean and Panton case, why is it that the presumption, all right, let's say she pled guilty she admit to certain things. She's still awaiting trial, because if they accept that as a guilty plea, then they wouldn't be going to trial. They would rather be going for sentencing. Why can Jean and Panton not be on bail? Why can Jean and Panton not be on bail pending trial? is it a black and white justice system? Or obviously, it would appear there is a Russian national. Abena, good evening and welcome. There is a Russian national who killed about 4 people by accident, in an accident. He was out on a 500,000 bail. Brenda, good evening and welcome. The alarming thing I find about this case, when you compare it and contrast it to Jean and Panton, this Russian national was given back his passport and was given permission by a judge to go to Russia and to come back for trial. Albeit an accident, 4 people lost their life. Him being out on bail, one could argue, poses risk to the public because he could get back behind a vehicle. He could get back behind a vehicle under the influence of drugs, alcohol, medication. And that would be a risk. That would be further risk to life. The issue of Jean and Panton pose no risk to life. Jean and Panton doesn't even pose a risk to our bank accounts. She is not a danger to the public. Why having Jean and Panton? Why having Jean and Panton on remand pending trial? Jean and Panton have a right to liberty. And should be viewed as innocent until proven guilty. Her crime doesn't warrant her losing her liberty pending trial. What if by the time they get to trial, there's not enough evidence to convict her? You see how long her liberty would have been taken away. But on the flip side of things, though, is Jean and Panton the only one responsible for $5 billion worth of fraud? Is Jean the only one responsible for $5 billion worth of fraud? And will Jean and Panton be the only one that carries the can for $5 billion worth of fraud? The Financial Service Commission has lost a bid to amend a lawsuit against Stocks and Security Limited, SSL, including a claim that 2 former directors signed a declaration of insolvency after resigning in January 2023. Justice David Batts is presiding over the trial, made his ruling on Monday following application by the FSC lawyers. I would want an authority from you that a resignation once tendered must take effect, he told Lisa White, a senior lawyer from the Attorney General Chamber, who is leading the case for the regulator. You haven't been able to show me, the judge concluded, after earlier stating that it was the only way to succeed. The, the FSA filed an application on the 1st of March seeking to add third ground to its lawsuit against SSL, the private investment firm at the center of the $5 billion fraud, whose victims include the sport legend Usain Bolt. So the issue here in court is the directors, the two directors that are defendant in the lawsuit, they submitted their resignation on the 12th of January, but then signed the insolvency declaration on the 15th of January. The Financial Services Commission lawyers are arguing that they didn't have authority to sign because they've submitted their resignation. What the judge is saying, even though they submitted their resignation on the 12th, there's nothing in legal authority to say that the resignation took effect immediately, unless the resignation stated that it took immediate effect. Then it could be viewed as, while you're acting in a director capacity, then the resignation, even though submitted, wouldn't take effect. So that's the major contention in court, which the judge did not accept from the FSC lawyers. Let me continue. Where am I? The case is essentially about who has control over SSL, whether it is the Financial Services Commission, which took temporary management on the 17th of January 2023, or the trustee Cadian Campbell, whom SSL director appointed the day before to lead the winding up of and reorganization of the firm. The Financial Services Commission claimed Campbell's appointment breaches directive it gave to SSL on the 12th, and further that the company was wrong to declare solvency rather, a key decision that enabled SSL to pursue winding up under the trustee. So be a bangarang and doing things sideways and all sorts. The declaration was signed on the 15th of January 2023 by directors including Lawrence Adamson and Peter Nibbs, who the FSC sought to argue in court, submitted their resignation on the 12th of January 2023 and the 2nd of January 2023, respectively. So one of them gave their resignation on the 2nd of January, the other gave theirs on the 12th. And then later on the 15th, they signed off on the solvency declaration. So that is the contention in court. White insisted in court, White insisted in court on Monday that the regulator is not imputing any intention for what Adams and Nibs signed, despite record indicating the submission of their resignation prior to the 15th. She said the FSC main argument was that at, at the time they signed, they didn't have authority to do so. So the FSC is arguing they don't have authority because they have already resigned. The court is saying, provide me an authority that once they have submitted their resignation, it must take effect once they submitted it. But Batts is the judge. But Batts argued that without any legal authority to support a view that resignation take effect on the date they are submitted and cannot be suspended on agreement between the parties. The FSC was asking the court to inquire into the honesty of the men without providing evidence. So the court is saying here, you can't ask me to question people's state of mind when you're not providing me any evidence to back it up, back up your argument. How are you going to prove that they are lying? Question Batts. He also pointed to affidavits from the men which suggested that they had communication with SSL officials, including the chairman Jeffrey Coham, which resulted in a delay in their resignation taking effect. So they're arguing that even after they hand in their resignation, a conversation they have with some of the hierarchy, the understanding that their resignation wouldn't take effect on the date they submitted it. So it's based on these things why the court didn't accept the Financial Services Commission's argument and thereby didn't bring that additional grounds into the lawsuit as something which the FSC was relying on. White had earlier argued that a conversation with the chairman of the board or the chief financial officer, remember the chief financial officer, him one of them was for him laptop did go missing in the so-called break-in. A conversation with the chairman of the board or the chief financial officer is insufficient to reinstate a director who has submitted a resignation. However, Batts said the fact that the men signed declaration could be viewed as an indication that their resignation did not take effect, and the FSC could not have showed evidence to the contrary. White responded again that the FSC did not bring a claim of fraud against the men, but Batts countered that you were asking the court to come to a conclusion as to the conduct of these directors in order to conclude that the document is invalid. The defendant or SSL, which is represented by court-appointed independent lawyer Casey Carleen Lemon, and the trustee second defendant who is represented by Casey Carlin Hay. They had argued last week when the issue was first raised that the FSC move was an effort to change the case. What I see from the development last week is that the shape of the case is intended to be changed to challenge whether they should have signed on the date they signed. The FSC, as claimant, has proceeded for a year and more on the basis that these men were director at the time they signed, Lamont said on Thursday. So the claimant legal team is arguing that for over a year, the FSC, the defendant rather, they're arguing that for over a year, that is SSL and the trustee, they're arguing that for over a year, the claimant was pursuing the lawsuit on the basis that the two men who they're saying didn't have legal authority, no, they've pursued for a year that they had legal authority. He supported the argument. The Financial Services Commission initially named Adams and Gibbs as defendant in the lawsuit, but later dropped its case against them, as well as the SSL founder, Hugh Crosby. The trial entered its 7th day on Tuesday, which is to the gun. So the case is actively going in court, but let's see what comes out of it, who really takes control of SSL. But is Gene and Panton being cheated too harshly in this whole SSL situation, where we see charges, Hugh Crosby dropped from the lawsuit and others, but Gene and Panton is pursued, and not only pursued, have her freedom taken away pending trial. I don't think Gene and Panton should be locked down all this time. It should be a case where, like others, she is on bail pending trial. But with regards to the whole Everall Warmington thing, him and Darrell Vaz had an argument over does ministers have the right to issue funds and all of that. But that back and forth became heated between the two of them. But the end of it, Darrell Vaz tell Warmington, you really don't learn anything. The IC, the Integrity Commission also. The Integrity Commission is also pushing for the removal of Warmington from other parliamentary committees, such as the Integrity Commission Oversight Body and the Joint Select Committee for the review of the Integrity Commission Act. So Everett Warmington sits on these two committees, and the Integrity Commission is seeking his removal from both committees because they say the standard and conduct, the standard and conduct, Mr. Warmington, fall way short of the standard, as his behavior is an unbecoming one as a cabinet member and a parliamentarian. So it doesn't stop there by him being removed from the cabinet. Calls are also raising for him to be removed from other committees that he sits on currently. So let's see if a weak prime minister is going to listen to the call from the people and how he will act in a time where the prime minister is weak and is limping into an election. Hold on. But him and Warmington, him and Vaz was at it today over the whole fund disbursement issue, because he's saying Vaz put out an article in the Observer, and Warmington would be arguing that the article that Vaz put out would be misleading. So that was the line of question they were going down. But in the end, this is what Vaz said to him. It doesn't seem like you have learned anything. My question is, how long will it take before Warmington and him party go at war? And who will wield the knife at a very limped, battered, lazy, and embarrassed, loss of momentum prime minister? Will one of wholeness team wield the political knife, or will they send him a signal that they are confident, in going to the general election with Andrew Holness? But this is where we end tonight's broadcast. I just wanted to bring that SSL article in particular to your attention and question the issue of whether Jean and Panton should be given bail, or why is Jean and Panton treated differently, such as being treated differently from a Russian national who have, albeit an accident, have caused the life of 4 people, but was given bail at the tune of $500,000. And if it couldn't get worse, a judge has given him his passport and is allowing him to travel to Russia and expecting him to come back to Jamaica to face a trial. Isn't this showing us that there is still a colorism justice. The Easy Jerk World. Good evening and welcome, bro. Does this not show that there is still a rich and poor justice, black and white justice, colorism justice? And this is why the whole issue of Peace Day, this is why the whole issue of Peace Day annoys me. Because you will not be able to deliver peace in this world until you have justice. Good evening, Rail. Good evening and welcome. Peace and love that you're all talking about on this Peace Day is a product of justice. You cannot have peace. Peace and love doesn't mean much if it's not funneled by justice. Norma Ferguson, good evening and welcome. Peace and love doesn't mean much if it's not funneled by justice. Until we have justice, we cannot talk about peace and love. When we have justice, when the people receive justice, when they not only receive it, but see that it is done, then we can move on to talking about peace. Or as I've said earlier, peace and love will come. It's a product. Peace and love is a product of justice. So let's do the thing the right way around and aim to have justice be served. Aim to live in a more justiciable world where it's not justiciable because I am rich. It's not justiciable because I am white. It's not justiciable because I have power and influence, but justiciable because all of us, whether we're bigots, brutes, or batterers, we're all children of a Most High God. Thank you very much for being here this evening, and we will definitely see you right back here tomorrow morning. Thank you very much, and be good. If you cannot be good, be very careful.